Hey everyone, welcome to the Sword and Laser. I'm Veronica Belmont.
And I'm Tom Merritt.
Sword and Laser is a book club, but it is so much more. It's author interviews, we bring you news, the latest in sci-fi and fantasy, and of course, awesome discussions from fans like you.
Now, one important thing that you need to realize, ladies and gentlemen, is our show is entirely funded by you, our patrons of the arts. Or in this case, us. But if you would like to support the show, if you get a little value out of the show, check out patreon.com/swordandlaser. Thank you to all the folks who back our show and all the folks who've decided just now to back the show. You guys are awesome.
You are awesome. And in fact, we're inching ever closer to $1,000. And we don't have a milestone for that, but I feel like this month.
Well, we need to fulfill the last milestone.
Yes, we are still
Which,
working
by
on
the
that.
way, we have news. We received a prototype jingle over the break. So progress has been made. You will get a jingle.
It's hard to get jingles made during the holidays. I'm sure you understand.
There's all the bells are using them, right?
The elves have a lockdown on all the bells. Far as the eye can see, we keep trying to find the jingle bells, and they are just nowhere.
They're gone.
I mean, I've gone to backlots. I've tried Overstock.com. It's just bells everywhere.
You show up and the guy laughs at you. He's like,
really?
This time of year, you didn't reserve a head? Well,
it's like,
sorry.
what? You might as well be looking for eggnog, lady.
Right.
That happened to
Seriously.
me too. I tried to buy eggnog.
You cannot buy eggnog. Do they not sell it anymore?
No.
It's against the law in California, I guess.
It is
all right.
literally against the law.
Speaking of drinking, what are we drinking?
What are you drinking?
I'm having a mimosa with flat Veuve Clicquot champagne that's left over from New Year's.
Nice. In your ZD-Net champagne flute, I see.
Yeah, it's the only champagne flutes we have.
Do you have more than one?
We have
just
two.
The one?
We have two.
Oh, that's
one
good.
for me, one for Eileen.
All right. I am drinking, I'm just going classic Veronica with a glass of Bullet Rye on the rock. Just single rock.
On the Alcatraz?
On the Alcatraz, hanging out in Alcatraz with Sean Connery. Wait, is he on the rock? Or is that, Sean Connery's on the rock?
Sure. He is for you.
He is in my mind, anyway.
He is in your rock.
Hey, happy frickin' episode 200, you guys.
Hey, cheers. Here we go.
Woo, cheers. That's why you're drinking champagne, right? Champagne.
Smurfly. So we worked hard, we planned, and we couldn't find any jingle bells. So we're just doing pretty much a regular episode. But we have a very small special piece of the episode coming. Don't get too excited.
Do we?
We don't want to build it up too much.
Are you trying to keep my expectations in check?
I'm trying to keep everybody's expectations.
Right, everybody's expectations?
Yeah. I mean, because you know what it is already.
I don't remember. No, I remember. I'm just joking.
There you go.
That Bullet Rye is serving me right. Doing me good. All right, let's jump right into the quick burns.
Not a lot of news. Things go quiet over the break. But Mark Zuckerberg is coming for us, Veronica.
I know!
He started a book club.
I actually saw this and was like, Zuckerberg.
And immediately got 30 million people. What? That just makes me want to leave. No, actually, it's fine.
You guys out there, you know where your loyalties lay.
I'll be honest. I feel like this is a really cool thing.
Shut up, Tom.
No, seriously.
Don't
like
that's not nice to say. I'm sorry.
He's doing the same things that we do, which is encouraging people to read. And maybe it's all for show. Maybe he had a team of press people craft these messages. But when I read all his messages, it just really felt like he's like, you know what? I decided I want to read more, so I'm going to read a book every 2 weeks, which forget that. I would never be able to keep up.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah. And he's like, and I want you guys to follow along with me if you want, because I think it'd be fun. So let's start a group. Like, he's actually just using Facebook like a normal user would use Facebook, except he happens to be Mark Zuckerberg, so he got 30 million people to follow along.
You know who
and
he's
like
coming
made
after?
Amazon sell out of the books that he's picked.
Right?
So far.
Yeah, you know who he's after? He's after Oprah. Zuckerberg is coming for Oprah.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. She is the queen bee of book clubs. Let me tell you what. I mean, me and Felicia got nothing on her. She is like the queen bee of book clubs. And Zuckerberg, he's got the social network behind him. He's got more eyeballs on his social network than she probably has on her show. So I'm just saying, man, can you imagine what it would be like to get your book read by one of these two book clubs? By either Oprah's book club or I mean, gosh, that must be so thrilling.
It's going to make somebody's life.
Yeah, it's going to change their career forever, for better or for worse, probably for the better, I would imagine.
I hope.
Probably universally for the better. But that's crazy. But I am excited. I hope he does get more people interested in reading and in book clubs in general. Maybe people will be like, "Oh, I like being in a book club, but you know what? I'm really more into genre fiction. I wonder if there's anything like that out there for me."
A rising tide floats all boats.
Well said, Tom.
I don't want to read The End of Power by Moises Naim. That's their first one. That's fine. I'm not saying it's a bad book. It's just I got too much to read. I can't join in on this.
That's okay. I've already got 2 book clubs myself, so
I have 2 book clubs too. Just one of mine isn't public.
I know, super secret manly book club. I know how it is.
Who
but
said
hey,
it was manly?
Speaking of new books out there, Mistborn fans get excited because there are going to be 2 new Mistborn novels by Brandon Sanderson coming out in 2015 and early 2016. So that's a pretty tight schedule for 2 new books, and we know that he goes pretty deep in his novels. So
they will continue Wax and Wayne's adventures, the ones begun by Alloy of Law. Mm-hmm. He's already hard at work on the follow-up novel to Alloy of Law. When Something Unexpected Happened. If there's one thing we've learned in 10 years of working with Brandon Sanderson, it's that he almost always delivers more than we've asked for him and that he loves to surprise us. We were awaiting the arrival of the previously announced sequel when he did it again, presenting us with not just one newborn novel, but twins. So that's why you're getting 2 books.
That's great. Yeah, between all the traveling he does for appearances and podcasts and everything, gosh, he's a busy bee, that Brandon Sanderson. Good for him.
Well done.
That is very exciting.
So Rob and Chikara both posted that. Do when you post things to the QuickBooks threads, to give a quick look, see if somebody else has already posted it first. But that's fine. Nick also said, a library in your pocket, how having an e-reader has changed my reading habits was worth a look. This is over at Tor.com. Joe Walton, who we read previously, talks about how she sort of resisted e-readers. And then I believe it was her son finally talked her into one. And now she's totally on board for the aspect. And here's the thing. She still buys printed books. But what she used to do is she would buy the hardback because she wanted to read it soon. And then she'd buy the paper book later because she prefers to have paperbacks. It's just her taste. Yeah. So now what she does is she buys the ebook to read it soon and then buys the paperback later if she wants to add it to her collection.
She buys the paperback and not the hardcover?
Yeah, I do the opposite. Like when I buy a printed book, I buy the hardback because I think it looks better on the shelf and I like having the book, I like having the item. She prefers the paperbacks, which is, that's fine.
That's interesting.
To each their own.
Yeah, I mean, I think e-readers have changed a lot of people's reading style. I mean, I know I read significantly more now that I'm on a Kindle than I ever did before the Kindle. I think that's just because when I finish a book, I suddenly have access to all these other millions of books right at my fingertips, and it's so easy to just jump into something brand new. So instead of being like, oh, I'm going to go do something else now, I'd be like, all right, I finished that book, now I can read the next one in the series. Or no, I really like that author, I'm going to read the similar author now. So the progression happens a lot more quickly and a lot easier. The barrier to entry getting into a book is much lower.
Well, she says the second way the e-reader unexpectedly changed my habits is, quote, I buy research books for it instead of getting them out of the library. And this is because not only does she get the book instantly rather than having to wait for like an interlibrary loan or something, but also she always has it with her. She doesn't have to like decide if she's going on a vacation, whether to pack it or not. It's just there. They're always there.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best part too. And the battery lives are phenomenal for so many of the e-readers out there.
For the e-ink ones, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So that makes a big difference. I mean, not that a book will never run out of batteries, but you also don't get to have as many as you want at your fingertips at that very moment. So there's trade-offs, but there are still holdouts out there who are
books
like,
get
no,
wet.
Books
well, I guess
are
e-readers get wet too. So.
Well, you can put an e-reader in a plastic bag.
You can put a book in a plastic bag. You just can't read it while it's in the bag.
Hardcover might be a little more difficult. Yeah, but anyway, people change, technologies change, and I think e-readers are a fantastic way for people to bring their love of reading with them wherever they go.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, now it is time for Bury Your Sword, which is our feedback from the audience.
This is our 200th episode special segment.
Woo!
We had some plans to do like an award show kind of thing, but they never really took off, and we only blame ourselves, no one else. But we did get a best of 2014 thread thanks to Christina, and people published or posted their favorite books of 2014. So Christina started it off. Best published in 2014, The Crimson Campaign, Words of Radiance, Breach Zone, The Martian, and City of Heavenly Fire.
And then Rob goes on to say Aleph the Unseen, The Martian, The Name of the Wind, Promise of Blood, and The Night Circus. Now, those were his top 5 sword and laser reads, so those weren't all published this past year, but they were ones that we picked for the book club. Let's see, who else we got here.
Did he intentionally eliminate the sword and laser reads from his top books read in 2014? Because none of them are the same.
Oh, awkward.
Mm-hmm. Words of Radiance, though, top 5 book published in 2014 for him, and his top book read in 2014.
All right, we got a Sanderson fan over here.
Sky liked Altered Carbon the best. Nice. And The Martian, Name of the Wind, Promise of Blood, and Aleph the Unseen. I'm seeing some repeats here, which is interesting. We've got The Martian's showing up on a lot of people's list. Eleanor says Ancillary Justice, The 100,000 Kingdoms, Slaughterhouse 5, Fool's Fate, and S. Obviously, books read in 2014, not published in 2014, which is fine. You can do it however you want.
I like how people have all their different lists. They have their top 5 sword and laser picks. They have their top 5 books read, which I'm also seeing a little overlap for Tesdai, Sedai, Tsedai. Am I thinking like? Never mind. I tried so hard. I'm sorry. Sedai. They liked The Name of the Wind best, followed by The Night Circus, The Martian, Dawn, and Altered Carbon. But there was only 2 overlaps there with their top 5 books read, which were Ready Player One, Words of Radiance, The Night Circus, The Slow Regard of Silent Things, and The Martian.
Yeah, I guess we should go ahead and say we both talked before the show. We just picked one, like our favorite read of the year, and we both picked The Martian.
Yeah, it was both of our favorite reads. So it was just a great book. I'm really
I can't
excited.
say enough good things about it. I still go back to it in my mind sometimes. I want to read it again. I can't wait to see the movie. Part of me wants to have a sequel just because I want to continue to live in that world. Mm-hmm. And then part of me is like, no, I actually kind of don't want a sequel because it was so good. And what if it's not as good if there's a sequel, which is kind of a stupid reason not to want a sequel because hopefully it will be. And he even left room at the end of that story, definitely for a sequel, right?
You think? Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think he was guaranteeing one, but he left a place where you could easily pick up a story. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough.
Omni had their science fiction novels released in 2014 top picks. Number 5 for them was The Martian. Number 4, The Long Mars by Terry Pratchett and Stephen Baxter. Then Earth Awakens by Orson Scott Card. John Scalzi's Lock-In made number 2. And their number 1 is Hugh Howey's Sand.
Yeah, I found that interesting. That's exciting. I got to continue on in that series as well. IO9 also had their best science fiction and fantasy books of 2014, which I shared on the Twitter account a couple days ago. And they picked The Bone Clocks by David Mitchell, being at the top.
I love that version of Cloud Atlas.
It's very similar, right? Like it follows the same similar structure.
Except it's not a circle story so much. The way Cloud Atlas is, where you get half the story first and then you half the story. It doesn't do that, but it definitely is just moving through time with characters overlapping, and it's all continuously the same story for sure.
Yeah, why would you do that? Why would you do this? I mean, you do such a novel storytelling thing, and then you go back and basically repeat it.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say is it is different in that it's a continuous story through all the periods, whereas Cloud Atlas really isn't. Cloud Atlas, there's very tenuous connections between all the periods.
Okay. And then Broken Monsters by Lauren Bukes. We also have The Book of Strange New Things by Michel Faber. Damn it, Veronica. Starting out the new year with a bang, really. The Peripheral by William Gibson. Maplecroft by Sherry Priest, which I'm excited about. I've been really looking forward to that one. Lock In, which made every list. Maybe we should read that.
We should definitely read that.
Although we've already read 2 John Scalzi's, so do we do that again? People were kind of like, we already read John Scalzi. We'll see.
We've read John Scalzi once as an alternate, once as a main.
True.
But that doesn't mean we can't read it. It doesn't have to be a book pick. We should read it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we've got, what else we got here on Lev Grossman, The Magician's Land. So
I love that series. I read that this year, and I really enjoyed it.
And very happy to see Full Fathom 5 by Max Gladstone on this list as well. He's just a great guy, great author. So they've got a much longer list, which also, of course, includes The Martian by Andy Weir. So yeah, we're seeing some... So the Southern Reach trilogy by Jeff Vandermeer. I really want to pick that one up. I've heard fantastic things about that. So that might be one that we think about down the line for next year.
Cool. All right. Well, shall we move on to our Book of the Month discussion?
Yes, let's. Our book pick for the month of January 2015 is The Sparrow by Mary Doria Russell. I started picking it up already. Of course, you can get it on Amazon or wherever books are sold and published. So yeah, it was published back in 1996, and it won the Arthur C. Clarke, the BSFA. I can't say that, Tom. Can you say that next award?
No, I don't think I can either. The Kurt Lavschwitz Prize. It's German. Or Swiss or something. The James Triptree Annual Science Fiction Book Award.
Triptree, and it really is very different from a lot of the kind of sci-fi we've read in the past, I would say, because it focuses heavily on the Jesuit priesthood, which, I went into this book totally blind. I knew absolutely nothing about this book. In fact, I knew so little about it, I wasn't even sure it was the book pick because we had the poll and I wasn't positive which one had won, so I had to go to the Goodreads page, and fortunately either you or Rob had put that it was the pick for January, so I bought it and started reading it, and I'm like, priests, all right, this should be interesting, this is a new one, okay.
It's one of those books too where people go, well, it's really not science fiction. They try to say, oh, it's a mainstream novel, it's literature, therefore it's, like they do with Kurt Vonnegut, and it's like, it's science fiction. It may not be hard science fiction. In fact, there was already a thread on the forums where people were debating the inaccuracy of the relativistic time frame of the trip, which, as far as we can tell, is wrong. It's not the correct physics, but I don't really care because it roughly is accurate, and it's not essential to the story for it to be right, but it's definitely science fantasy, if not science fiction.
And the main character, apparently, Emilio Santos, got his name from the pharmaceutical manufacturer who made her sons, Mary Doria Russell's sons, cold medicine.
Yeah, somebody asked, because there have been a lot of I don't want to say accusations, but a lot of people say that it is is very similar to other books that are out there. I'm trying to find, I thought I put, James Blish's A Case of Conscience, who has a character with a similar name. So they ask her, is this a tribute? Is it an homage? She's like, no, the cold medicine was called Sandoz when I was writing it. And I'm like, well, that sounds like a good name for a Jesuit priest from Puerto Rico. Sure. It's not a direct quote, by the way.
Inspiration strikes us in fascinating ways, doesn't it?
Yeah. Also, there's a sequel, Children of God. If you really like this, you want to keep going. There's only those 2, but they've both won a lot of awards. And Warner Brothers had the film rights. Brad Pitt's Plan B was going to do it. And Brad Pitt was going to play one of the main characters, but she revoked all the rights, has taken them back to herself. She's written a screenplay with her assistant, Karen Hall, although she doubts that it will ever be produced. But she's like, I just didn't like the idea of them making it the way I didn't want it to be made.
Oh, interesting. I wonder if they had already written a screenplay for it and she didn't like it, and so she had the right to reject it because... Yeah,
because they always change things. They kind of have to. That's the nature of film.
Well, yeah, because I just read an interview with the woman who wrote Gone Girl, and she was saying that she was very lucky because they typically let an author write the first stab at the screenplay, And then they pat him on the head and they say, okay, good job.
Good try.
Thank you, good try. Now we're going to hire the person we always assumed was going to write it anyway, the person we had on list for writing this screenplay for this film. And then they, give them a pile of money and tell them to go on their way. But she didn't. She actually was able to write the screenplay for the film. So I wonder what Mary Doria Russell's situation was if she had read the screenplay and was like, yeah, this is not I'm not cool with this. But I mean, I guess it depends on the person. Would you rather never have it be made and have the screenplay be the vision you want it to be? Or would you rather let millions more people learn about your book and story through the film and then hopefully come back and read the original book?
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it.
And not have it be like your vision in the
because
film.
I mean, the argument against that would be like, but I don't want them to get the wrong impression about the book by seeing a movie that is not true to my vision. But at the same time, if that brings a lot more people to your book, more people will see that vision. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting.
That's a good question.
The Sparrow, don't get put off. A lot of people before we picked it were like, oh, it's a religious book. It's not a religious book. It's also not an anti-religious book. This is a book that has characters that are Jesuits in it. And I'm not an expert on the Jesuit order, but as far as I can tell, it's trying to be fairly true to the realities of Jesuits. I've known a couple Jesuits, and there's nothing from knowing them that. And I was raised a Catholic, as was Mary Doria Russell, as were you. Mm-hmm. There's nothing in here that stands out to me as like, oh no, that would never happen. I'm sure if you're a Jesuit, you probably could pick it all apart, right? Because anybody who's an expert in something can always do that. But it's not. I don't get the sense that it's trying to like tear down anything. It's more just exploring. Yeah, the nature of evil and motivations and what makes us human.
It's a story about some religious people. That's how I see it. There's also atheists in the book.
It's a first contact story.
Are very close to the religious people. I mean, Anne, for example, is an avowed atheist, and she is very close to Sandoz. So it's a story about people who live with religion. But it's not a religious tale. So.
Now, Mary Doria Russell is interesting. She's from Elmhurst. It's a suburb of Chicago. Was raised Catholic, as I mentioned.
Cleveland.
No, she lives in Cleveland now.
It says Lyndhurst. What's this? Oh, yeah. Sorry. You're right.
Father was a Marine drill instructor. Her mother was a Navy nurse.
Wow.
She got a PhD in biological anthropology from Michigan. That's part of what makes me say, listen, you want to pick on this for not being science fiction. I called it science fantasy earlier, but I want to argue that this is science fiction, even if the physics is wrong, because the anthropology is right. Now, we can have a long conversation about whether anthropology is a real science or not another time, but it is. It's a science. It may not be as well developed, and it certainly isn't as well respected, but it is a science, and it's getting to be better all the time as it learns more about humanity. She's a biological anthropologist. She wrote a biological anthropology fiction story, as far as I can tell.
That's a good way of putting it. It's an interesting way of putting it. I don't see why anyone would not call it a science fiction story. So that's just, it feels very pure sci-fi to me already. So I don't really understand why people are even saying that it's not sci-fi. And I find it ridiculous that people say a mainstream novel is different from a sci-fi novel, because a sci-fi novel can totally be mainstream.
Yeah. I think part of it, too, is that she went on to write, she wrote a sequel to this, but then she wrote his two historical novels, Thread of Grace and Dreamers of the Day, and a Western called Doc. And so you might be tempted to say, see, she's just a mainstream fiction writer because she doesn't stay in the genre. But once again, like Philip K. Dick wrote non-science fiction,
Guy
and he's still a sci-fi. Yeah.
There's plenty of authors who dabble in fiction away from genre fiction, so that's not all that surprising to me. But yeah, so there's a sequel, and I am not too far in. I'm only about less than halfway through still. But I mean, come on, it's the fifth. I'm chugging along pretty well so far.
This is the kind of book where, there are certainly books where I'm like, I need to finish them. Mm-hmm. There are rarely books that I don't enjoy when I'm reading them, but there are books that I make time for, and there are books that I'm looking for time for. And this is a book where I'm looking for time to read it.
Agreed.
I'm really enjoying it. I want to point out for people who are like, I just don't get the name Sparrow, science fiction about Jesuits. Where does this fit in? Matthew 10:29-31 relates that not even a sparrow falls to the earth without God's knowing of it. And once you get into the story, you'll kind of see where that does frame the general idea of the story. But as I said, it's not about religious people. It's even though it's got Jesuits as a central character, as Veronica pointed out, it's got atheists, it's got agnostics, it's got Jewish people, it's got people of all different beliefs, many different beliefs anyway, and it's about what makes us human. I think it's and especially as a first contact story with aliens, that's really what I'm getting out of it.
Mm-hmm. Nicely said. And of course, there are some fantastic characters in this book, as Christina jumps in to say. She says, I want to have dinner with Anne and George. Started this on blind faith in SNL without knowing anything about the book. I'm totally hooked. I love the characters. They are so distinct. I'm enjoying the present-past pattern of the chapters. The difference with how happy Amelia was and how he currently is has me very curious and a little anxious about what happens in between.
Yeah,
but then they go on to discuss the amazing dinner parties that Anne and George have because they are pretty legendary in the book. And a lot of people are saying that Anne and George are amalgams of Mary Doria Russell, and her husband.
Maybe.
So that's, is it the author writing themselves into the tale? What's the term for that? There's a term for that.
Mary Sue.
Not really
no.
Mary Sue. No.
Oh, that's not what you're looking for.
No, that's not what I'm looking for. Stand-in. It's like a stand-in, basically.
All characters are. I don't know how much these are. Could be. If it is, I want to have dinner with Mary Doria Russell because I also want to have dinner with Anne and George. In fact, that dinner party scene, the one big dinner party scene, although there was a few, made me want to have a dinner party. I was like, wow, they make it sound so fun.
It's they seem like a cool couple. Gosh, I'm so nervous because I don't want to get into spoilers. It's too soon to get into spoilers because a lot of you haven't even started the book yet.
Well, here's the thing.
Things look pretty dire in the beginning of the book, at least.
We can put a line under it right here, spoiler time, and say that's it. We're not going to spoil anything else because we are going to move on to have some final thoughts on the Night Circus, which is going to be spoilery for that book. But yeah.
I don't know. I'm not ready to get into spoiler. I know.
Right.
I know the audience has spoken and has said, no, talk about spoilers. It's fine. But it's only the 5th of frickin' January. It's too soon.
But they're all done with it by now. We are the only two schmucks who actually wait and don't read the book before the month.
I don't wait. It's not on purpose.
Most of the people out there, they're like, as soon as we announce the book, they're like done within 2 days.
It's crazy. You guys are so effing fast. My God. Yeah, you guys are too smart. So maybe you can join Zuckerberg's book club, and I can't get too mad at you because you can just apparently suck down books the way I suck down whiskey.
Woo! That's fast too.
Ow! Wow!
All right, should we get spoilery about last thoughts on Night Circus? We mostly wrapped it up last time, but Veronica hadn't quite finished it, and now you have.
5% left. I was so close. Yeah. So Bailey's in charge of the circus now. Okay. Kind of saw that coming. Is he Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey? That was the question I always wanted to ask.
I kind of feel like that's left to your...
Was that just a nod?
Maybe he is. Wink, wink. I don't know if that's what it's meant for or not, but that's how I took it. Was she didn't want to be so on the nose to have him meet Barnum and stuff. But there's certainly a nod.
There was definitely a moment where I was like,
oh, me too. Yeah. If maybe the redheads are the Ringling. Well, no, they're brother and sister though. That doesn't
maybe. Work. I liked the book a lot, though I still don't understand why they left early that time where Bailey missed the circus. There was no reason for them to leave early. They just fucking took off.
Wait, what are you talking about?
When they're waiting for Bailey to come save them from whatever disaster had been impending, and they say, you better come, you better show up. And the circus never leaves early, and then just this time they left early, and they just kind of say, yeah, well, I guess they just decided to leave early that night. But wouldn't that not be the night they would want to leave early?
Well, but they're not the ones in charge of it. There was an explanation in there, and now I just don't remember.
No, there wasn't, because we were talking about this on the forums too, and everyone was kind of like, yeah, that was like kind of convenient, I guess.
I felt like, because I remember having the same question, and I felt like I came up with an answer anyway. Maybe I just made it up in my own head.
Maybe.
But I don't remember what it was. But
I don't really feel like what he could have done to prevent anything.
But, okay, only the redheads knew that Bailey was going to save them at first, right?
I guess. Yeah, yeah.
Or did they close? Did they close in order to make it easier for them to get Bailey, and then that had the unexpected effect of driving him away because it was close? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Well, there was the whole fight, though. There was the man in the gray suit was fighting them. Maybe that's why it had to. Isn't that why it had to close?
This is the problem with reading something too late.
Yeah.
Or like talking about it like a month after I finished the book.
Well, it is the problem if you want to get that detailed, because I don't remember that.
But anyway, I really loved it. I thought it was great. Fantastic first novel. Just really awesome effort by Erin Morgenstern. I'm glad we picked it.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad we read it. Good job. Well done. Can't wait to see the next one.
Good job.
Pat yourselves on the back.
I guess I got to start thinking about, February already. Maybe I don't want to talk about it yet. I've got some ideas.
Got ideas?
I got some good ideas.
Hints?
No hints.
All
right. I mentioned one of them in the show so far.
Would it be dictatorial pick, vote, or something?
I think it'll be dictatorial.
All right.
Unless they like throw a riot and get really mad at me. Whatever.
You know, I can show you how to fix an election.
What have I ever cared about that? What have I ever cared?
Let them eat cake and drink whiskey.
Let them read books.
Let them read books about cake.
All right. Well, I guess that kind of wraps it up for this episode. So yeah, pick up, please, The Sparrow by Mary Doria Russell. And we're going to be reading that this month. All the discussions are already jumping over on goodreads.com/sword and laser. So jump in over there and start reading away. Anything else going on this month? Let's see. I don't think so. I'm going to be at CES for the rest of the week. So if anyone is in Vegas and wants to say hi, I will be at the Intel booth on Wednesday and Thursday, and then I'm taking back home on Friday afternoon. So yeah, come by and say hello. And otherwise, I guess we will see each other again on the we're going to have an interview next week, actually, on the 13th with Daniel H. Wilson. So I will he's creating a brand new app, by the way, so I think that's really a cool thing we haven't discussed a lot about with authors in the past. He's creating a fictional world within an application for
so
iOS
he's an
and Android.
author but also creating an app.
Yeah,
nice.
Well, Daniel H. Wilson wrote Robopocalypse and books in that series. He's a brilliant guy. I believe we've had him on the show before, have we not? I did a panel with him at Engadget Expand a couple of years ago, so that's how I know him personally. But I feel like we've had him on the show, maybe not. But he's really smart, really great guy. So stay tuned for that. I will put a link to the Google Plus page so you guys can RSVP if you want to join us live. Otherwise, stay tuned to the feed, and that will be up there then on the 13th.
So happy New Year.
Happy New Year! Happy episode 200. Here's to 200 more episodes.
Hey.
You guys want to get in touch with us, the email address is feedback@swordandlaser.com. The website is swordandlaser.com. All of our discussions happen over on goodreads.com/swordandlaser. And if you want to call and leave us a voicemail, the phone number is 415-7-SWORD6. Don't forget to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/swordandlaser. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.